Hello and welcome back to our channel and to another episode of Hunsolo with me, Lawren. A little while ago I put a little poll thingy out on my Instagram asking what kind of content people would like to see on Hunsolo, and some people said story times. So I have decided to reach into the depths of my mind and pull forth a story to tell you all today. So this story isn't a comedic story, so there won't be any funny editing in this video, because for me it's quite a serious story and I'd like it to be put over as a serious story and also as like a warning to other people not to act the way I did. I've had anxiety since deciding to film this video. I feel sick. Okay, let's just calm myself with some chocolate milk. Give myself a little warm hug. Fine, Lawren, you're fine. Right, so this story is going to be telling of something that happened to me around 2 years ago now. Went out on a night out, when I'd gone on a night out. So that I'll just start from the beginning. You can tell I've never done a story time before. So me and my eldest sister and my mother had gone to a show at the theatre, and afterwards, because it's like a local theatre, everybody ends up going out into the town and you always see other people. I had met up with a girl I was friends with at the time, and we'd gone into town and we'd had this really great night. It was just like the show we'd seen was fucking fantastic. Like I was in such a good mood. Like we'd had some nice drinks, and I decided, as always with me, when I've had enough fun, I've had enough fun. I stop drinking and I go home. As much as that annoys a lot of people who I've been on nights out with, when I'm done, I'm done. I don't like to force myself to drink. I can't force myself to have a good time, and I can't force myself to stay somewhere that I don't want to be. So I knew that I'd reached my limit for having fun, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to spoil my night by standing around being miserable waiting to get a taxi home because somebody wants to stay out longer, and I feel bad about being like the one to leave and ruin the vibe. I'm jumping ahead, so oh my god, I'm gonna I don't like telling this story. Okay, so, but to rewind a little bit. So, like I said, when at a local show, like the whole town kind of goes to it because it was a big event. It was a comedy event. So everybody who's there is people from the town that you've met before, you've seen out and about. So you end up like meeting up with them when you're out. And you end up standing in a group of people. You might not like know them very well, or you might have not spoken to them for a few years, but you know who they are. Like you feel safe in your group. Like I said, you feel safe in your group of friends that you're there with, and you can let yourself go and have a good time. But I'd reached my limit for having a good time. Like I say, I didn't want to spoil the evening for me or anyone else by being the miserable one who's stood around just waiting to go home. So I gave everybody a hug, because you could do that 2 years ago. You were allowed to touch people, you were allowed to breathe the same air as them. Oh god, what a time. I do miss it. And said my goodbyes and left the club. Sorry, I just feel really anxious about this. So I left the club on my own, by myself, on my own, and I cannot stress that enough. I left on my own after saying goodbye to everybody who was there. I left by myself. And like as I was walking, so like the club was in like a courtyard kind of. It's like you got the club, some shops, like a courtyardy bit, and then a street with other shops and whatnot on. So as I was walking out the courtyard bit, I just kind of saw out the corner of my eyes somebody quickly leave the club and like walk the same direction as me, and I knew who it was. I knew this person. So I was like, but it was, I knew this person, I didn't know them. I knew of this person is what I should have said. I probably, in the time I'd known of his existence, probably had 2 5-minute conversations with him. I remember one at a party, it was literally, oh, you're that person from that thing. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, and that was that. And then I think I'd spoke to him at another event in a theatre setting. So it wasn't like, I didn't know him to be like, oh, hi mate, you alright? Like, I didn't have him on my social media. No, did I? Oh, well, he requested me on Facebook before this event, but I think I accepted it, and then he sent me a message and I ignored it. And that should have been reason enough for you not to do this. So it was this person, and just so I don't keep saying this person, I'm going to call him, what can we call him? Something to fit the situation. Call him Dick, because that's what he is. So I saw Dick come out of the club and like walk quickly towards me down the courtyard. So I started walking a bit faster. Bear in mind, I'm in like not mad high heels, but like a decent sized stiletto heel. So I walk a bit faster and try and get around the corner to be out of sight, because I had a feeling he was trying to catch up with us and I didn't want to talk to him. And like, not out of being nasty, it's just, I was on my own, it was dark, I didn't know him well enough to feel comfortable in his company, and I just didn't want to walk with him. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to walk with him. It's quite simple as that, really. So I got around the corner thinking, okay, just keep walking faster so you're far enough ahead for him not to catch you up. Bear in mind, there's probably like 200 yards between me and this Dick. So as like I said, I rounded the corner, kept up my pace to get further away from him. But somehow, I don't know if he was running or what, because I didn't want to turn around and be obvious about it, he caught up to us. And in my head I just remember thinking like, oh, please fucking go away. Please go away. I don't like awkward situations, and I don't like forcing conversation. I think it's one of the most awkward things, and it's like, if I am forced to make conversation, I feel like it's obvious that I am forcing conversation, which makes me feel even worse about it, because then it comes across as like I'm being fake. So he caught up to us, and I did my best to be like, oh, hiya, and he was asking where I was going, and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go and get some food. I wasn't gonna go and get food, I was just gonna go home, but I didn't want him to follow us to the taxi. So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go and get food, and I tried my hardest, and without being rude, because I've always been brought up to be, although I have been brought up to be aware of dangerous situations, I've also been brought up to be extremely polite and kind. Because of the way I was brought up, I also really can't deal with confrontation. It like, the thought of it, like literally you can see the hives on my chest coming out because I'm thinking about this story. So if the thought of this story is making us like that, you can imagine how like actual confrontation makes me feel like I literally can't breathe when I have to have an argument with people. It's that bad. So as if I was gonna turn, if I'd said like, can you fucking leave me alone, as if he'd been like, oh, what the fuck are you gonna do you know what I mean? I should have just told him to leave us alone. Oh fuck. Okay, so like I said, I told him I was just gonna go and get food, because I thought like, I'll have to stand in a queue at a pizza shop and you'll get bored and you'll fuck off. So he walked with me to get food. He wasn't getting food, he just walked with me. We had a really stilted, awkward conversation. Like, we didn't really talk to each other in the pizza shop, so I was like, oh, he's obviously getting bored and he's gonna piss off, and he didn't. So bearing in mind, when in our town, when you go for food after a night out, you're guaranteed to be in the shop at least 20 minutes because it's all, well, back then in the good old days, it was always packed in the pizza shops. And I might point out there are like 10 takeaways in a row. They're all fucking chock-a-block. You can either one of them, you're in there for a long time. So he stayed in the pizza shop. I got my food eventually, I paid for it. And outside of the pizza shop there's literally a taxi rank there. You can go around the corner, there's a taxi rank there. So I was like, okay, well I'm going home now. And he was like, oh yeah, me too. And I was like, I didn't want to share it. I really didn't want to share a taxi with him. The amount that I didn't want Trump to be elected again is how much I didn't want to get in the taxi with Dick. But like I said, I'm just overly nice, I guess. No, overly polite. And I didn't turn around and say, oh, well, I'd feel more comfortable getting in the taxi on my own. Because although that is the sensible thing to say, to me, that is like being rude. It's like, I feel uncomfortable and I have a right to feel uncomfortable, and I know that now, and I should have stuck with my guns. But like, in my head I was like, you know, this could be completely innocent and he just wants to share a taxi because it's cheaper, and I'm gonna be like, no, I'm getting a taxi on my own. To me, in my head I was like, you're being rude, you're being a bitch. So we got in the taxi together. We didn't sit like next to each other. I sat on one side, there was a seat in between and he sat on the other side. Like, there was literally not one point was it in this conversation where we talked intimately. We didn't touch each other. We didn't, like, there was no connection. There was no flirting, like, not even from him. It was just, it was a strange, uncomfortable vibe. Like, a really, almost like just like this kind of conversation, just looking at us like this kind of conversation. Like, can you imagine just be like walking next to somebody and them just talking to you like this all the time? It's like, that is how fucking weird it was. So anyways, I feel like because I'm stressed and I've got anxiety about telling the story, I'm talking really fast, but I don't know if I am talking really fast or that's just the way people from the northeast talk. So but after watching this footage back, I might have to fucking refilm this, and then I'll have double the hives, double the anxiety. So that'll be fun. Right, so we're in the taxi, and the taxi driver says, okay, where do you want to go? And I give the taxi driver my address, and I turn to Dick and I say, okay, where are you going? And he said, oh, don't worry about it. And I went, well, no, because we need to give, as if he's here. And I was like, we need to give the taxi driver your address to drop you off. He wants to know where you're going, tell him where you're going. And he was just kept going, oh, don't worry about it. And I was like, in my head, like, that was really the first inkling I had of like, this doesn't feel, this feels like it's gone beyond a bit weird. This feels like a little sinister, is that the word I'm looking for? This feels like this feels like I'm gonna be in a situation that I don't want to be in. And I should have listened to myself, and I should have just got out that taxi straight away and said, I've changed my mind, good night. But I didn't, because I was a fucking idiot. So the taxi driver is driving to my address, and Dick kept saying things. And it suddenly clicked in my head. I was like, you think you're coming in my house and we're going to do something? And I turned around and said, what you think is going to happen is not going to happen. I literally said those words to him. I remember it clear as day. I'd been drinking, but I was not drunk in any way. I was just tipsy. Like, you know when you're hyped, you've had a good time, you've had a few drinks. So you know you've had a few drinks, but you've got all your senses. You're fully aware of your surroundings, everything. I remember clear as day saying that to him in the taxi. And he turned round and he said, we'll see. He turned round after being told he was not going to be entertaining me that night and turned round and said, we'll see. What the fuck? Right, okay, so after that we didn't really talk in the taxi because what the fuck do you say? Plus the taxi driver was there. In my head, like, that's the third person to have heard these weird comments, so it's like, okay, so someone else has heard it. Like, if anything happens, he's there. So the taxi driver pulls up at my address. I pay the taxi driver for how much it costs to get to my house, and I said, right, tell him where your address is, goodbye. And I got the taxi, and then the next thing I know, he's getting out the taxi, and I was like, no. And he was like, what? And I went, no, this isn't happening. And he shut the taxi door, and I was like, no. And I started braying on the back windscreen of the taxi, being like, please, please, don't drive away. And the taxi driver ignored us and drove off. Why am I gonna cry? What the fuck am I getting upset for? Oh my god, look in my chest. Fuck me. The thing is though, the taxi driver drove off. I was running after the taxi in my heels, trying to bang on the back windscreen still, being like, please don't drive off, please don't drive off. Because now I'm stuck in the street with this guy that I hardly know, who I haven't invited, like, along my journey with us, who is, like, acting very strange. And I was just trying to go home. I was just trying to finish my night the way I want to finish my night, like, in a good way. So I was like, right, you need to ring a taxi right now because you need to go home. And he was like, no. And I was like, yes. He was like, I just need to use your toilet. Lawren, are you fucking thick as fuck? Clearly yes. So in my head I was like, right, he's going to use the toilet and then he's going to go straight home. But I didn't want to let him in my house, because that's my house. And I did not know this man properly enough. I'd seen him twice to talk to for all of 10 minutes before this night. I did not want this man in my house. And I told him, no, you're not using my toilet, you need to go home. And he was like, just let us use the toilet and then I'll get a taxi. You know when you do something that you don't want to do, but you're like, why have I done this? That's what happened. Basically, I caved and let him use my toilet. I literally remember putting the key in the door and, like, just being like, just stopping for a minute and being like, I just don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. And I felt like that was the point where I could have been like, you're not using my toilet, you are not coming in my house, you need to get the fuck away from me. And my night would have ended absolutely fine. It would have been a strange experience, but I could have gone upstairs, eaten my now cold pizza and watched Family Guy and fallen asleep. But instead, I opened my front door and I was like, right, the toilet's up there, use it and then get out. So he went upstairs to use the toilet, and once I knew he was out of earshot, I ran from my staircase through my living room, my kitchen, my dining room, through the French doors, locked the French doors from the outside, hid behind the shed that I've got a big shed at the bottom of my garden where, and at the back, at the side is where I put my wheelie bin. So I was like hidden behind the shed and the wheelie bin, and I rang 3 taxi companies and I said to each one, I said, I need some help, there's a man in my house and I need to get him out, have you got a taxi? Not one of them I don't want to ruin this makeup because it's the prettiest makeup I've had in ages, and I'm going to try really hard to dab away these self-pitying tears. So anyways, so I rang 3 taxi companies and not one of them would send me a taxi. Nobody asked if I was okay, and nobody asked if they could help me. They just said they had no taxis and put the phone down. So, at this point, I'm stood outside in my own garden, behind the shed and the wheelie bin, crying. I still got my pizza box. Oh, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? I've still got my pizza box. It's resting on top of the wheelie bin. Gross. I ate the pizza afterwards as well. Fuck me. So, at this point, it's now 2 o'clock in the morning. This ordeal has been going on for around 40 minutes. 40 minutes where I had 2 opportunities to be like, put my foot down, tell this guy to fuck off. And and I didn't. Right, so when I realised I can't get a taxi for this guy, I let myself back into my house through the back, put my pizza on my bench, and I walked into my kitchen. So my kitchen is a galley kitchen. So this is my galley kitchen, this is my dining room, and this is my living room. So I don't have a door, it's like a walkway. So from my dining room you can see all the way to my front door. And this is the creepiest thing about it, is that I don't know why he did this. So on my chimney breast I have a big mirror, so from here, from my dining room, I can see in the mirror, see the staircase. He came down the staircase, peered in the living room, saw that I wasn't there, went back up the stairs until he heard me go into the living room, and then came downstairs as if he'd only just finished on the toilet. Now, bear in mind that I'd been outside for at least 10 minutes trying to ring a taxi. So how many times had he planned to walk casually into my living room as if he'd only just finished on the toilet? Like, how many times had Dick been up and down the stairs being like, is she there? And what? So, like, I literally, at this point, I'm fucking shaking because I'm like, I have got myself into a situation now where this cannot end well, and I'm in my head, I'm like mentally preparing, I'm like, this is gonna happen, like my worst fear is now gonna happen. I'm a strong woman, but I think if I'm overpowered, I'm probably not gonna be able to fight back, and I'm like trying to mentally come to terms with the fact. So I'm trying to come to terms with the fact that like the R word is gonna happen like any minute now, and I'm trying to be like, what do I do? Do I lie back and just like accept it? Do I try and fight? Like, do I ring the police now and tell them I'm scared? Like, what do I do? So he just casually walks into my living room and sits down, and I'm like, you need to ring a taxi and go home right now. And he's like, he literally looked past me like this to my bookcase and went, oh, you collect books? Ignored me telling him to go home, didn't acknowledge it, didn't even flinch when I said you need to get out and go home now. He just went, oh, you collect books? And I just went, yes I do. I went, you need to get a taxi now and go. And he sat and patted the seat next to him. He went, I'll come and sit down. Ooh, this is the worst. Look at my eyes. Yeah, so he patted the sofa and was like, come and sit down. I was like, no, you need to get out now. And he was like, no. And in my head I'm like, I don't know what else to do. What do I do? I've told him to leave. I cannot make this man leave. He just will not go. And like, the worst thing is though, he didn't seem drunk. So I couldn't even say it was like he was so pissed that he didn't know what he was doing. He seemed like fully aware of everything that was going on. Like, he seemed aware of me being uncomfortable. Like, I've just been crying in the garden, I've got mascara everywhere. How do you not know that you are making me uncomfortable? You did know, Dick. You did know. And you still refused to leave my house at 2 o'clock in the morning? The fuck were you doing? I hope you woke up the next day and were fucking ashamed of yourself. Sorry, okay. And he, like, so I'd said you need to get out and he was like, no. And I think it was this point when I just walked over to my front door, like, because I didn't lock it. I flung it open and I was like, you need to get out of my house now. And I just saw him kind of like, as if it was nothing, just like shrug it off and stand up and walk and go. And I shut the door and I locked it and I turned off all my lights and I ran upstairs and I cried. And I cried and I cried and I cried some more. And then I rang my sister. Did I? Was it? Who did I ring? I feel like I might have rang Charlotte. Did I ring Charlotte? Charlotte can corroborate if I did. Well, it was definitely somebody I rang. And I told them on the phone what had happened. And I was literally like hyperventilating. Honest to God, I've never been that scared by another human before. I've been scared of flying. I've been scared of being up a height. I've been scared of being scared. I've never been scared by a human, like face to face before, until that moment. And fuck me, it was absolutely terrifying. If he hadn't have left when I opened that front door, do you know what I mean? I feel like the worst would probably have happened. Fuck. Fuck. See, even now in my head I'm like, you know what, Lawren, no, he could have just been, just like, he might just say things differently and they didn't understand. Why am I trying to make excuses for some fucking random creep? I felt in danger and I had a right to feel that I was in danger, and I should have felt like I had the right to do something about it, but I didn't because I was too worried about being polite. So at the end of the story, I wasn't physically harmed. I was just very fucking shaken and very fucking scared. And I would like this story to be a warning and a lesson to other people, women and men, who end up in situations like that with me. I don't care if the person isn't being creepy or isn't being weird. If you feel like someone is following you, or if you feel like somebody is trying to be inappropriate with you in any way, or if you feel unsafe around somebody, you have fucking right to put your foot down and tell them to leave you alone. Because I wish I had done that. In a way, this experience made me mentally stronger to be able to turn around to someone and go, get away from us. Because I've done it since then, and I've been brave enough to just tell somebody to fuck off. But then, when this story happened, I was too much of a, oh, just be nice to everybody kind of person. And it doesn't get you anywhere. If anything, it can end up putting you in trouble, like it almost did with me. So I'd like people to learn from my mistakes. Don't don't do what I did. Don't believe that they just want to use the toilet. Don't believe that they just want to jump in the taxi with you. Don't believe that they're just walking to the takeaway with you. Unless you want their attentions, just tell them to go away. If you tell them you're feeling safe, tell them you don't want them around. Tell them you'll fucking scream if they don't leave. I don't care what you do, just do it to make sure you feel safe. So that is my first story time. I feel like it was really heavy and a little bit tense, and yeah, it was heavy. It was heavy. I know story times are meant to be more like fun and just random stories of shit that happens, but I feel like this story is something that people can learn from, and also it just feels nice to get off my chest. If you've watched this video and I've already told you this story and told you who the real dick was, please don't tell anybody else, because I don't want to get in trouble. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this story time. If you have enjoyed it, if that's the right word for this kind of video, please give this video a thumbs up. If you would like to see more story times, please comment dick in the comment section. And if it wouldn't be too much trouble, please would you subscribe to our channel, because we are trying to get to 150 subscribers by January the 1st. It's slow going, but we do appreciate everybody who has subscribed. That's it from me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!